Hey everyone, welcome back to Addie P's Real Estate Tea, where today I want to briefly discuss the Housing Affordability Index and also the current ongoing mass evictions. Now, before we get into this video, please, during this video, if you like what you hear, please hit the thumbs up button. Also, please share. Sharing is caring. Please subscribe to the channel and also hit that bell notification to be notified of future videos on the channel. And you already know, if you're watching me from Instagram, drop me a heart, show me some love. All right. Now, again, wanting to touch upon the Housing Affordability Index. I recently read an article from HousingWire.com, and they basically talked about the fact that home ownership rates were actually soaring to a 12-year high. And that had a lot to do with these ridiculously just sweet low interest rates that we've been dealing with, and I can't even say dealing with, because dealing with kind of sounds like it's a problem, and it so is not. Now is definitely the time, if you can get your hands on something to purchase a home. I mean, the interest rates are so low, and it is the best time to borrow money to purchase a home. Now, the National Association of Realtors, or NAR, as us agents call it, define the Housing Affordability Index as the measure of whether or not a typical family earns enough money in order to qualify for a mortgage loan. So, you know, with these interest rates being low and so forth, that has awarded quite a few people who may not have been able to, even maybe a year ago, to now qualify for a mortgage. They actually reported in this article, which this information was a combination of sources, but one major source was the census. And they said that home ownership for African Americans were actually up to 47%, opposed to last year, which it was 44%. And they also reported that that is the highest number of home ownership rate for African Americans since 2008. So it's definitely some positive news, a step in the right direction for those who qualify and who are able to take advantage of a property or home ownership. So, and those numbers were also up for Latino/Hispanic purchasers of homes as well too. So again, these low interest rates have definitely helped balance those numbers out for the Housing Affordability Index. So it opens up a great pool of opportunity there for buyers who maybe even a year ago may not have qualified for a mortgage or been able to afford an actual mortgage. So definitely, you know, you've seen some videos that I've done with a good friend of mine, Isiah, who is a financial consultant. I will link his information in the description box below, but you want to always start off with a good foundation. If you are kind of in the beginning processes or even pondering purchasing a property or a home, you want to start off with that good foundation, and that good foundation is credit. I can't stress that enough, that good financial health will yield you great results. Yes, we have the cheapest money that being thrown at us right now, which is great for those who are in the position to do so. And it's a shame when, you know, at this point in time, when we have this cheap money coming along and we're able to borrow at such low interest rates, that you may not be able to take advantage of that because of your credit standing and so forth. So definitely, if you have any questions about where to begin and so forth, if you're having credit challenges, definitely hit Isiah up. He is a great source of information, and any real estate questions you have, please feel free to comment in the section below, the comment section below, or contact me directly. But you want to put yourself in a position that you can definitely benefit from all of this. Now, how I'm tying this into the mass eviction is that some folks that are renting, which typically renting has been a large amount of folks actually, and what you'll see during this whole eviction crisis are people of color. They are African Americans, Latinos, and so on that are being really heavily hit by this. So while we have some positive reportings on the home ownership rate going up and so forth, there are those who, unfortunately will be affected by this mass eviction. And again, I go back to the basis, the foundation, which is really important, of having healthy credit and financial spending habits to position yourself into a way that you can definitely benefit during times like this. I know you think, well, who's going to benefit over COVID or a pandemic? But believe me when I tell you, another conversation, another video, but there are plenty of folks that are out here benefiting heavily from, again, one thing, cheap money to borrow. So you want to put yourself in that position too, that you can benefit from that. Now, again, little somber note, the evictions. We have discussed this on the channel quite a bit in regard to the mass evictions that are happening nationwide now. Some states have extended their moratorium. PA is one of them, yay PA, to August 31st. And there is talk that they are going to potentially extend that to the end of the year, which would definitely be beneficial, being that they're still kind of up in the air on the unemployment stimulus, which has since expired. That expired at the end of last month of July. So folks who were kind of keeping up the pace, maybe paying their rent and so forth, and keeping current with bills with that stimulus, that extra $600 stimulus in their unemployment, are now being, they're going to be faced with hardship. Now, some lawmakers have been discussing back and forth about continuing on with that unemployment stimulus. However, they're talking about reducing that amount to $200 extra on top of what you're getting from the state. So it's like, I know here in PA, unemployment, I think, is just under maybe $200, $300, depending on what you're making. So that's really not a big help. Every little bit helps, don't get me wrong, but $200 opposed to the $600 that some folks were getting on top of their state unemployment really is leaving them in a bad way. And again, like I said, the end of July was the end of that $600 stimulus. So we're definitely starting to see the results of the end of that. And I really wish that our lawmakers and so forth in Washington would have done a better job at establishing something so some folks would not be in the position that they're currently facing. In fact, some states like Louisiana, they have begun the eviction process and so forth. There were mass protests, which I did see on thegrio.com, where the protesters were peacefully protesting, but they were blocking the way where the landlords could not go into the courthouse and physically file for the eviction of the tenants. Some landlords did leave and, figured, I guess, hey, we'll come back the next day. But still, all in all, things are being set in motion, and not in a good way for a lot of tenants. And like I said, if you are watching from Pennsylvania, our moratorium ends the end of this month, unless it's extended again. I will continue to keep my eyes and ears open if I get any information on that moratorium. But just to, again, touch upon this eviction, and housing affordability, how that plays out from the renter perspective. Now, for a lot of renters, evictions, it's coming, unfortunately. And a lot of them were actually having problems before the pandemic, to be honest with you. And a large part of that had to do with affordability. I believe there was an article that came out, and I am just kind of loosely quoting here the statistic that you needed to make at least close to $20 an hour to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment, opposed to, say, someone who was making that $20 an hour. They'd be able to live pretty decent if they were purchasing a home and getting these awesome interest rates and so forth if the house was not that expensive. So the two are widely disparaged, are widely different here. And the reason why I say that is because the average rent is about $1,100-$1,200 a month. And I know where I particularly live in downtown Easton, I've seen 1-bedrooms for $1,400 a month. Yes, they're justified. Some of them where you have, your washer dryer, central AC, all the bells and whistles. So don't get me wrong. I'm not disputing that fact. No shade to my landlords out there. However, when you're dealing with, a certain demographic of people here now who are faced with, again, job loss due to the pandemic, we're dealing with a lot of other economic issues here. That plays out a lot differently in how you're going to be able to afford rent. So, again, affordability for renters looks vastly different than housing affordability at this point in time for those folks who are purchasing homes. Now, my only logic, and I've heard other folks kind of mirror what I'm saying, is that for a landlord, if you're tossing around eviction, I would seriously reconsider eviction, only because if this is a mass thing and it costs money to evict someone. You can't just go there, say, hey, I want this person out, they haven't paid me, or, whatever the case may be. It costs money, so that's going to be more money for you. Number two, what is your renter pool going to look like if everybody's getting evicted? Who are you going to have to choose from? So, that's my only thing that I kind of see that I'm hoping that some landlords take into consideration. Most landlord clients that I have, that I've spoken to, basically, they say, hey, you know what? We're working with our tenants. We're, if anyone is being faced with hardship, we're doing what we can, to work with them to keep them there. That's pretty much the tone that I'm getting and that I'm hearing from most landlords. But like I said, that's only here, maybe locally and so forth, not on a national level where some, are like, look, I don't care, get out, I'll get somebody else. But really, are you processing that those 10 other somebody else's may also be faced with the same, fate that the person that you just kicked out was? So, again, just something that I've thought about. But needless to say, here locally, job numbers came out for June for the downtown Bethlehem Easton area. And they said that the unemployment rate had actually hit 14.2%. Nationally, that was 11.1%, and statewide, that was 13%. So we're dealing with some high numbers here. And again, that is definitely going to affect credit. If you don't have a job, you can't pay bills, and those bill collectors are going to continue to report and so forth, and say, hey, so-and-so is late. So that's going to further, pull you down in the way of you being able to get yourself back up to, get to that point where you can be maybe on the buying end of things and purchase. So, it's easy for me to stand here and say, oh, healthy financial habits and so forth. Yes, I definitely promote that. However, I am also human, and I understand that there are some times that, hey, you can't do much, your hands are tied. And this pandemic and all that has come along with it economically has really hurt people in many ways, beyond people losing family, friends, and so forth. It's devastating, and pretty much mirroring some of what I've seen in the 2008 crash. There are definitely some parallels there, which is a little bit concerning, being the fact that now we have renters thrown into the mix that are, possibly losing out on their housing. So, definitely something to continue to keep your eyes on. Just to throw it out there, if you guys have not already done so, if you are here in Pennsylvania, in the state of Pennsylvania, watching this video, and you have not already done so, and you are faced with possible eviction and so forth, there is a program through phfa.org, or Pennsylvania Housing Finance Association. But needless to say, PHFA, they are granting renters up to $750 on their rent. So if you are faced with, hey, you know what, that stimulus has ended, that $600, I'm only going to have $200 of unemployment money here to utilize for my expenses each week, each month, whatever the case may be. Okay, the landlord, I would hope, would rather get something than nothing, where at least they get up to $750. So there is an application. If you go onto their page, phfa.org, there's a red banner there. Click on that banner and you will be able to get the application. Both you and the landlord have to fill that out. Locally here in the ABE area, there is an organization, New Bethany Ministries, and they are also assisting with any kind of eviction help and so forth. So those are some resources here in the state of Pennsylvania. And just to mention also, for those who already own homes who may be faced with foreclosure in the coming future, you may also go to that phfa.org and apply for mortgage assistance. So that's also a plus too. So I hope that you guys got something out of this video. Again, I hope that you guys can share this and, really band together, help each other out. Again, if you are on the buying end of this and you are good to go, hey, kudos to you. That's great. Continue your financial health and your credit health, and make sure that you take advantage of these awesome interest rates. All right, guys. Well, until the next video, please have a blessed one. Take care.